It's Amy with the Hag Reads, back for a weekly wrap-up. This is for the week of May 15th through May 21st. It was a slow week for me reading-wise. Just a lot of small things going on. I'm working on a couple of other projects, and so I just didn't have the time to sit down. In addition to trying to read through two larger books that are left over from Tome Topple. Still working on both of those, so some of my reading energy went into that, and obviously it'll be a little while longer before I get through them. This week, all of my books were adult fiction, and the first one was Murder on the Orient Express, which is part of the Hercule Poirot murder mystery series by Agatha Christie. This is the 10th in the series. It's a little more convoluted in the plot, I think, than some of the other murder mysteries have been. I feel like there were more characters in this, and that there were more motivations for the murder, and there were, a lot of intermeshed plot lines, and so it was harder for me to visualize the story, to keep track of everything. And this is kind of something along the lines of, not on the epic scale that, say, something like George R.R. Martin, where there are so many characters and so many plot lines, that it's hard to keep up with. But this was more than the average for the story, and because they kept going forward and backward, and who might have done what, when, and why, I just had a harder time grasping all of the finer points of the mystery. I can see why it was made into a movie, and I know it was done a couple of times. I've never watched any of them, and I would probably, I'm probably going to seek that out as an opportunity to kind of visualize the plot more for myself. And I might find I like some of the characters better. I didn't really find I liked any of the characters at all in this story. That said, I'm not sorry I read it. It was still an interesting mystery, and it was still definitely a worthwhile read. I just had a harder time with it than some of the other mysteries in the series. Second book for this past week was Nemesis by Joe Nesbo, and he is I think a Norwegian author. This is the 6th book in the series. Once again, we find Harry solving a mystery, because that's what the book is all about. This is another, the last few have been kind of two-pronged. There have been multiple storylines going on. So you have one storyline that is the first mystery is focused on a series of bank robberies, and in the first one that we are introduced to, and I don't think this is a spoiler, a teller is killed, and so Harry comes in on the mystery with the rest of the crime squad guys, and so there's that aspect, and then there's a secondary story in there involving an old girlfriend of his and a possible suicide, and he's involved, kind of, sort of, and so there's this secondary escalating thing going on with him throughout the solving of this other mystery, and then of course it all comes to a head at the end with a twist as usual. For all its convoluted parts, I figured it all out way at the beginning, and I was just guessing after I'd read a little bit of both of the plot lines and kind of got my thinking cap on. I figured it out way early, and that's not to say that I didn't enjoy following through with the story and seeing how the plot worked out. I thoroughly enjoyed the read. I really did. I like that Harry was kind of on the wagon for most of this. And I'm a little bit worried because his personal life seems to be going so smoothly, and we'll see what happens in future volumes. Of course, he's still got his ubiquitous humor and his kind of sardonic nature, and so I really like that as his character. Um, I would recommend this series to anybody who likes kind of hard-boiled murder mystery, cops with kind of screwed up lives kind of books. But I really did enjoy this one, and I'm enjoying the series so far. And the final book I read this week was a reread. It's the Prodigal Son, which is part of the Dean Koontz Frankenstein series. It's the first book. I think I've talked about it before. I have gone back and added in from a list that I kept from about 2007 forward of books that I'd read, and I'd gone in and put them in on Goodreads. And so as I was finishing this up, I found out, I thought I had read all of these. At the time that I finished reading them, there were 4 books in the series, and apparently a 5th one has been published in the time since I think I read the last one in 2009 or 2010. So there has been a 5th book published, and I don't remember enough about this. Like, I remember the main points, but really all the finer details and a lot of the characters, I don't remember very much about them. So I loathe the idea of leaving something unfinished in book series. So I'm rereading these so I can read the last one. I originally rated this a 4-star when I read it back between 2007 and I think 2009. I rated them all 4s, I think, and having read it a second time, I could only give it a 3. It just didn't hold up in the way that I remember. I know that this was also written, Dean Koontz's name is on it, and I think this is kind of the same thing that has happened with Robert Patterson. Dean Koontz's name goes on the book, but it's really somebody else who's written it. And in this case, it's Kevin J. Anderson, and that name seems really familiar to me. It's not a bad series, but it's not a great series either. It's got some interesting takes. It's a Frankenstein retelling. Well, maybe not necessarily a retelling, but it's a contemporary Frankenstein story. So they've been alive all this time. The Frankenstein monster has, and has been living in the modern world, and so there's a series that he receives a letter in a monastery where he's living, and comes to realize that an old nemesis is back, and leaves for the scene of the crime, so to speak. And then so we have some police detectives and the Frankenstein monster all coming together to solve this mystery, which does not get solved. And I don't even remember if it was fully resolved when I read the 4th book. I felt like it was mostly resolved. I guess we'll see when I get to the 4th book. It's kind of like watching a B movie. That's the quality of reading I equate it to. So not bad, but not good either. Just kind of middle of the road, reasonably entertaining, and for the most part enjoyable. There are some aspects of it that I don't particularly like, but I think I have to read more of the books to pinpoint exactly what it is about the story that kind of puts me off a little bit. That maybe I didn't notice before, because I do, I had rated it a 4, and I definitely would give it a 3 now. That's all I have for this week, and I will be back on Wednesday with a work in progress video. I hope you are all having a great start to your week, and happy whatever time of the day it is. I will see you all next time. Bye!